Good evening, good evening, good evening. We are here for our Wisdom Wednesday talk, and I think this one should generate some real conversation, and we should be able to share some wisdom with one another. Before we get involved, I want to again point out Masonic maturity through Scripture. This book here does talk in terms of how to gain control over your vessel. And this is your vessel. So it's a good book to read. Don't let the title lead you. I've had a lot of ladies ask me about that book, and I tell them all the time it tells you the type of man you really should uh, look for
Okay.
or respond to. Now, this Masonic Maturity Through Scripture is on Amazon. And if you forget the name, just type my name in, Herbert Ware, and you get it. Not that expensive, but very powerful, I think. And not just because I wrote it, but the reviews have been very good. Okay.
Could you put that title in the email? Could you put that title just in case I forget?
Well, again, if you go to Amazon and type in Herbert
Your
Ware,
name. Okay.
yeah, you're going to get it.
Okay.
I try and keep things simple.
Okay.
All right. Let me start off by saying God wants to put you in your masculine spirit and the full weight of your masculinity on display in front of the world without shame.
I agree.
Now, that's an awesome statement, I think.
Yes, it is.
That means this is not something we should be ashamed of, nor should we hide. Of course, as we've said in previous meetings, welcome, Brother Shelvin. Um, People, the world, family, friends are always trying to get us to cower down and they try and dilute our masculinity. In other words, the terms they use now is alpha male, beta male, and all that kind of good stuff. You we just have to be who we are and who we were made to be. Okay. Let's see. Truck treatment. Who wrote that? Was that you, Moore?
Yeah, that was me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me.
And that's a good thing. Brother Moore was saying that he started working with a drug treatment organization dealing with 13 to 18-year olds. And they desperately need male leadership. Because I was reading, listening to social media, and a woman says most black men are too feminine to lead. What you think about that, fellas?
I got plenty to say about that because I come back this one sister all the time that promote that kind of foolishness, right? And they are saying that, and I keep my composure because, like you say, we get the blame and the credit, right? And but that is the narrative that they're trying to say that we can't lead. But I'm like, there are male leaders in our community. You guys just don't want no direction, and you don't want correction or direction because when I was growing up, we had organizations like the 100 Black Men and all of that. Men that was in the community doing good, and these organizations still exist, you know. But they try to make athletes and entertainers our children's heroes, and they overlooking the AC man or the whatever. They say these dudes from the criminal element. They come out, they so-called reform thugs and whatnot. And I say there's no such thing because there's no retirement plan for a retired drug dealer. You know what I'm saying? None of that. And these men that y'all talking about reform thugs, I'm like, where are they in businesses? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, if they're so much what it is, why are they misleading the children? But when you got the man who work a 9 to 5, you're overlooking him. You don't consider him a man, but he's more of a man than most men. He getting up going to work every day. facing the world, fighting the world.
Well,
You know,
if you go back to high school, all the girls, especially the pretty ones and the fine ones, they wanted the thugs.
exactly.
If you were book smart, you wasn't getting no action.
Exactly. And it's still to this day. And I tell them, I'm like, even in your music, I said, you got 50-something-year-old Mary J. Blige making a song about bad boys ain't no good, but good boys ain't no fun. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Mm.
that's the issue with you yourself. But because you don't like, you know what I'm saying, direction, you don't like order, and real men, we follow rules. We have things to do, got things to get accomplished. We ain't hanging out all night because we got to get up in the morning, go to work.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
Well,
You know
I
what
think
I mean?
last week we mentioned boundaries,
Right,
setting boundaries and keeping them.
right.
So, with all that in mind, how do you handle it? What do you do?
As a man, you
Whether it's wife, girlfriend, children, co-workers, somebody's gonna try and get you to ease up off of this "I'm a man" stuff.
yeah. Listen, in this group with that at the drug treatment center, we're talking about masculinity, right?
Yeah.
So ever since I've been there, and I'm looking at like the women therapists and the counselors, like they got the one black woman. They listen to her, but they're all over the place, right? Then the white dude, he was like, when group, they don't listen to him at all. But man, they let me run the group the first time. Them boys gave me their undivided attention. And one Spanish therapist told me yesterday, she said, "Man, there's something they're talking about you and your groups and stuff like that there." And they're listening to you. It's like they're engaged because I go by the curriculum that they have set forth. But then after we do that, then I pull out what I want, like from I'm saying your book, and them boys be engaged. And I asked them about different topics. I say, look, I did the same stuff you guys are doing. So I'm like, there's nothing new under the sun. I'm like, I had one kid. He was like, man, I'm facing charges. I did this. He was like 15 years old, and that's why he was in the program. I said, bro, I said, look, your life is not over, man. I said, I did the same exact stuff at 14, 15, 16. I was facing charges, going to the detention center and things like that. So now they're like, oh. So basically, they're like, oh, you guys are not, oh, you're not lame and things like that in their eyes. But I'm like, I chose to be different because I knew that way there's no end of the a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow when it comes to that
No
particular
future.
lifestyle. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
What were you saying, Melvin?
No future.
Exactly. There's no future. I'm talking about even as far as work, things like that. I'm telling them like the type of work that I've done. I was talking to the young man about selling insurance. I said, bro, don't get no charges. You can sell insurance. I'm like, you're 18 years old. You turn 18 in here. You about to be a senior. I'm like, now you can take a life insurance course, a health insurance course, get your license, and by the time you 25 or 30, you making six figures without even going to college if that's not in your future. You know what I mean? He was like, but nobody ever told us anything like that. I said, I know, because no one told me about that. But I said, but
What
I'm here.
what what are these young men being told? Who? Well, they say that most boys are being raised by single mothers.
They are. So what they're seeing in the men that they're seeing in the community, most of the men, because I even give them an example. I say, look, if you ride down Avenue D in Fort Pierce, I say you see a bunch of men hanging out, not going to work, working productive hours. They're not running any businesses because they're in the same spot all day and whatnot. And then these are the men that your mothers, your sisters, your aunts, these are who they're entertaining and stuff like that. And this is what they promote on TV. That's cool. The guys hanging out all day, smoking weed or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? So that's what they're seeing. Like the guy that's getting up going to work, they don't see you. And if they do see you, let's say you got one car. You're not flashy because you're paying bills and things like that. But these guys, because like how I used to talk to my son about it. Like I had friends that were still living that lifestyle, and I would explain to my son, I said, "This is my guy. I love him. We grew up together. But I said, look at him. I said, he got on a pair of Jordans. You know, he don't have a car. But he looked good hanging out here all day. He looked cool all day. But he going home to stay with his mom and things like that. He got some money in his pocket, but that money is just to buy shoes and some food to eat day to day. I'm like, that's no way to live. I'm like, hustlers, in a sense, they promote hustler culture to us. Hustlers survive, you know what I'm saying? But builders and workers create and add value. That's how I
Yeah.
try to explain it to my son. You know what I'm saying?
That's good.
Yep. It
Yeah,
is.
That's good. That's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
But
Hustlers.
how, so, since you've taken on that mentality, how difficult has it been for you to maintain that mentality in your interaction with the world, women, friends, etc.?
So I accepted. Well, listen, not to brag, I never had an issue with women growing up. I mean, playing sports and things like that. But I saw
Well,
early on,
that's probably because you were one of the bad boys.
and but the thing is, well, listen. So let me explain that. So I was an honor roll student, but I did hang out with all the bad boys. You know what I'm saying? So when I left and I started walking my path, I still had cousins and friends that kind of had my back, right? Like, if you're in a gang and then you separate yourself, now it's like people like, okay, he buys stuff, they can get on you. But I had some guys that probably would have killed for me, so they kind of left me alone. But like my cousin, how he explained it, he's in prison now. He tell his friends, he say, look, man, cause they call me Tiger. He be like, look, they be like, man, what's wrong with your cousin, man? He come up here, be passing out flyers. So I would be passing out little things like from the Nation of Islam or from the Union. And they would joke about it. They say, boy, you did everything we did, but we would catch you by yourself coming out the library. Because all my peers went to prison except me. I'm the only one that's not a convicted felon
Okay.
and and whatnot. So they teased me about it. One friend said, man, he said, like, bro, 1 year you were a rapper, 1 year you were a Muslim, 1 year you were boxing. He said, he say, hey, but he say all of that kept you out of trouble. You know what I'm saying? It kind of helped me navigate. And then I accepted that as a working man, as a 9 to 5, that I wasn't gonna have 10, 20 women. You know what I'm saying? I came to terms with that. You know what I mean? And I talked to I say you don't get no reward for doing the what you know you're supposed to do. The reward in itself is just you doing the good and you helping other young men. Because I gave this one brother a book called The Knowledge of Self and the Science of Everything in Life. He was a stepson of a police officer. His mom was a beautiful mom, and you know how that he's getting teased by the kids because his stepdad is a cop and whatnot. I gave the young man a book. I saw that man after he graduated. That man said, bro, you got any more books like that? So at that time, he was looking for a job. I pointed him in the direction. I said, go down to your local union hall and apply for a trade or go and become a cable technician or a cable contractor because you'll learn skills. They'll pay you with no experience and you'll make a whole lot of money. Then I saw him 2 years after that. He was going to school to be a sheriff,
Okay.
like going to the academy. So I come to terms like you're not going to be popular with that, but if I can reach one or two brothers and I see them later on in life and they're doing good, I feel good about that because I was counseling kids in my early 20s too, and I had these two cousins. One went to prison, and one ended up going to college. But you could tell from their paths as young men how that was going to end up anyway because the one that ended up going to college, he was kind of a mama's boy, stayed in the house. The other kid, he was just wild. He was a wild child anyway. But
Well,
when
now, well, part of the problem, some people say, with young men growing up, boys growing up, is that they are around their mothers so much, they start to take on the female traits.
and they do, because this young boy, he did the one that ended up going to college. He had that a little bit in him, you know what I'm saying? But having a male come in, because she called me after once I was counseling, she would call me for any little thing, like like I don't. She would even call me after hours and be like, "Hey, Alan is messing up and doing whatnot," and I'm like, "Okay, I'll talk to him when I see him," because I used to have to talk to all the kids 1-on-1. But I even told her, I said, you can't reward him for doing bad. If he does something that you don't like, you can't like say you're gonna punish him and then do good, because we were showing like alternative ways to deal with your kids and stuff like that. You can't give him everything that he wants, especially if he's being disrespectful to you.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So it was good for them to have it was good for them to see a male come in and out of the home. As a matter of fact, when I was doing that, my I was working for a guy. He was the name of the organization was called Acorn Family Builders. It's not in existence anymore. And I was working for this guy. And when I came in and started traveling at 29, he was my worshipful master. As a matter of fact, he's moving from West Palm Beach and taking on a church in Virginia somewhere. Like this Sunday is his last sermon in West Palm Beach. And this young man had access to men like this in his life, being that the mom was a single mom, an older woman, and no men around. So they have to see men in the community be men, because my first, outside of my father and my uncles, I just saw them work, but that generation didn't have a whole lot of hands on.
Well,
It was
how did you maintain your state of mind and not go to the left and wind up in prison? But then, how did you handle the criticism and the joking and fun they made of you since you were going through your
so
process?
so at 17 years old, right? I went to the first Million Man March back in 1995, right? And because my son, having a son at 17, I just knew I wanted to be somebody that he could respect and his mom could respect,
Okay,
because
so you had a goal.
I had a goal and I saw the things in the community that were being pointed out to me that affected us, not being fathers, not being husbands, not being men. I saw that, and those men in the Nation of Islam were instilling that in me. So that was my first introduction to real brotherhood, because I had brothers from all walks of life, men from different backgrounds, different ages. I'm socializing with men. Like they say, you have to fellowship with men. You got to fellowship with men, because those men were navigating me through all of that. Because I was still doing the stuff that my friends were doing, but every Thursday they would pick me up. You know what I'm saying? They would pick me up and they would take me to this group called Black Youth Enrichment Association. It was like a learning session. It was different kids from the neighborhood. Bro, I would be going in there. I would literally have drugs in my pocket, guns on me, and all of that. But those men had their hands on. And then those Christian women in the community, my godmother and all of them, was making me go to church on Sundays and all of that. So I had people really on me, you know what I'm saying? But my introduction to brotherhood, and then as I start maturing and I start reading more, I'm like, nah, I gotta be, because my like all my friends, my cousins, all of them boys went to prison, and their children was left out here with the moms. But I had my son hands on from the like the moment he was born, where I'm like, I'm not going to prison. I'm gonna be what he needs, and that kept me motivated. And then then I'm stubborn. I don't want to be like everybody else. So being young and popular and whatnot, I just let that fuel me. You know what I mean? Because I'm like,
I
okay,
got you. I
yeah,
got you.
it fueled me, man. It fueled me. It was an
Well,
experience.
let's kind of look at power. Um, there's a book I have that says Power, Dominion, and Mastery, and I kind of looked at the focus in on the power. It says in here, in the kingdom of God within man's consciousness, the power faculty plays an important part in controlling the expression of many emotions, inspiration, and thoughts. Okay? Uh, so they refer to the power faculty. The voice is the most direct avenue of its expression. When a man has dominion over the emotions and the feelings from which the original impulse arises. So now, I guess what this is talking about is how we express ourselves. Do we express ourselves as having power or not? and it comes across in your voice. What do you think about that? Okay, you get charged up and you start yelling and fussing and cussing or whatever the case may be. Are you in control?
I don't think you're in control.
No, I would agree.
Yeah, I don't think you're in control when you get to that point. I mean, I think you done lost control, and then you're saying anything that emotionally comes to whether you saying what you feel and not thinking about what you're saying at that point. You want to hurt people at that point, and then hurt people hurt people.
Brother Shelvin, you thinking about it? Something to say?
Well, there's an old saying, you'll know which one is the fool in an argument because the fool will start cussing. Intelligent people don't run out of things to say. So whoever starts doing all the cussing and fussing, that's the fool. He just ran out of words to say.
Brother Tony? Okay.
And I say anger is the root to it all, because once you get angry, you lost control.
Yeah.
And anger leads to other things. Anger is the problem. You can't lose your self-control in any situation. And once you lose your self-control, you lost it.
But a wise man never loses control.
That's it right there. That's it.
I think it's all about authority, because God has the ultimate authority. However, he can grant authority to us over the dominion of whom we're intended to guide, because we all have different spiritual gifts, and one person may be able to reach a specific group in a better way than someone else. However, if we all come together and utilize our different spiritual gifts, we can impact different sects of society. Like some people may work better with individuals who can relate to their, growing up and background. Like the young man was saying, he's more appealing to a certain group that others can't touch because they can identify that he's been through some of the things. So people relate to what is, relatable to them.
Yeah. I agree with that, brother.
I agree with that too, because you can't go in a situation or even in a room and talk to people about their situation if you never experienced their situation. That goes hand in hand. Even in the working world today, you have people that come out of school from reading a book and then will come and try to, hey, well, you need to do it like this, like this, like this. It don't work like that.
Right.
If I'm from the streets, huh?
I blow your mind, huh? I know a guy that coaches basketball.
Mm-hmm.
He never played basketball, but he's a dynamic coach.
Oh, Phil Jackson?
No. Phil never played? Phil Jackson never played?
He played. Phil played.
He played
for the Knicks.
Okay. Now this guy, he had made it to the pros, but his coaching, and he would get guys that were like on the fence of, they were volatile, they're going on their way to prison. Okay. But they were playing basketball like in high school, and he was in the college level. He never played, but he was one hellified coach.
Well,
because he studied the game and he studied the people. So I did all that noise and so forth, Shelvin, because what you said is worldly, so to speak, because if you get the wisdom and get connected, you're going to know how to address me or Melvin or John or Walker, okay, so that you get the best out of us. But that's a gift. That has to be a gift.
Right.
Yeah, it has to be a gift. If you're not going, if you haven't experienced it, let's compromise. If you haven't experienced it, haven't done it yourself, it's got to be a gift given from God to you in that particular area.
I was going to say I agree 100% because a lot of times if you look at educators and teachers, they're not necessarily the highest paid profession, but a lot of them, that's their passion, working with young people and trying to develop future leaders. So even though they may not be compensated as people in other professions, the money isn't as important because they're able to have a living, but they're also able to be involved with their passion.
Well, we're not talking about money. We're talking about the power and the ability to get things done and to show others how to get things done. Back when I was young, they used to say, those that can do, those that can't teach.
Right.
And I grew up hearing that until I ran into this guy, Matt Cross. That's his name. Okay. And he just blew me away because I had to ask him, have you ever played basketball? And this little white guy loved coming into the black neighborhoods, black high schools, colleges, recruiting guys, and giving them some structure and guidance.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I think the former women's coach for UConn, Gene Oniyama, not saying his last name correctly, but I think he wasn't necessarily a big basketball star, but he was very successful coaching women at UConn. Even Rebecca Lobo, if you remember her, Sue Bird.
I remember hearing the name.
But Calipari.
Yeah, so you right. Go ahead, bro.
Calipari, one of the greatest college coaches they'll probably ever see. Because look at all the young players he put out in the NBA, and he get them. A lot of them are troubled kids, but he with them. Like if you look at him, he's a little short dude, Italian, no form of physicality, like he can do anything. But he gets those young brothers, and he gets them in, and I think his thing is he's more like a father figure. He gives them some latch on to the, hey, look, man, and he'll tell you, man, I got my kids back. He don't play them games and then he's like, hey, I got y'all back.
And I think a lot of time it's about whether a person is buying what you're selling. Like in order to get a group of soldiers to go to battle for you, they have to be willing to give their life for you. And like you were saying, Mr. Wells, some leaders, they have that it factor, and people are capable of getting under their leadership because it's just something special about them.
They have that magnetic personality.
Well, how do we get that power?
That's God given.
Yeah.
You don't just wait. You have it.
You said it was a gift.
Yeah, it can't be. You can't learn that.
Yeah.
That's given to you by the creator of all things.
So how do I get it?
You tap into
it's a gift.
You have to invite that spirit into your temple.
Thank you.
Christ.
Keep talking.
Yeah, that Christ-like spirit, because Christ said, "Follow me, and I shall make you a fisher of men." So the more we identify with that higher power and spirituality that we follow, and for me, it's God and Christ and the Holy Spirit, that it's not necessarily I'm gonna just be the greatest of all time, but I do have that spirit within me, and the more I tap into it, the more I strengthen it, the stronger it becomes. So like the book that you have out, like if I'm trying to become a better leader, the more it doesn't necessarily have to be biblical, but the more I read about other leaders, or the more I read about other failures, so the better you equip yourself, the better you are to deal with whatever it is that you're trying to compete against them. Like,
I agree with Walker 100%. I agree with Walker 100%. So, like, if you're not born, they say hard work beats talent any day, right? So that's where their hard work, where you didn't quite say it like that, Walker, but that's where
Hey,
it comes in,
uh-huh.
equipping yourself with that. You know what I'm saying? Because all right, everybody. I'm going back to boxing. Everybody can't be Muhammad Ali or Sugar Ray or whoever. And for you young guys, you might not know these guys, but if you practice hard enough, man, and go, you just got to go 10 times harder. Like I don't like Floyd for whatever reason, but Floyd is in the gym from the time he started boxing to
Mhm.
now. Like Floyd is about 48, almost 50, and he's still going to the gym. Mike Tyson hates Floyd Mayweather, but Mike Tyson say, but care what you say about him, he's still in the gym every day.
You know why people don't like Floyd?
Why they don't like Floyd?
Because Floyd learned and understood the game from a different perspective.
Right.
He said, hey, I'm not going to be like Muhammad Ali and get out here and take this beating. And when I get 50, 60 years old, I'm not going to be able to walk.
Right.
So I'm going to start using the system that they created to win my fights, a point system.
That's what it is. Boxing's supposed to be all like that.
And if you look at it, man, I don't like Floyd as a boxer because I'm used to Marvin Hagler. You
Right. We
know,
grew up in that era.
right. They get in the ring and they want to box. You
And
want to
slug it out.
right. But as you get older, people start enhancing you with the knowledge, like, hey, you know, it's money in this, do it this way. So he evolved the game.
That's why he became a billionaire.
Yeah.
He
He
learned how to
evolved.
slip.
His daddy gave him the game and his uncle gave him the game. Hey, look,
and,
ring, score these points, you win the match.
Yeah.
and brother,
Scores
I'm glad you
points.
said.
He scores points and he slips punches.
Right.
He's the first person that I ever saw slip a punch the way he does.
Right.
And
But
you know, I'm glad that you all brought up Floyd Mayweather Sr. and his uncle, because that's going back to what we was talking about earlier about having that positive male role model in your life.
100%.
Somebody, you know, his father was in the boxing business first, so he was able to learn from his mistakes and then pass them on to his son
Right.
and saying, hey, if you really want to box, I'm gonna show you the right way so that when you retire, you do have money to fall back on.
but his
Or like you say, you do have your health. So going back to the topic, how can the young men who don't have those positive male role models in the home, you know how to be a successful young man? And then sometimes even if the uncles or the cousins, they may be telling them the wrong thing. Like, hey, yeah, it's nothing wrong with having 50 women, or it's nothing wrong with wearing the most expensive clothes. So even though they may have a role model that's a male, they may not be implementing them with the best activities on how to lead their lives as a young male.
Right.
the problem that we as African American men face is we stay how can I say it, isolated. Things that our forefathers, our grandparents, and our dads enforced on us, a lot of times we don't want to enforce it on this new generation. So we be like, oh, well, y'all didn't have this, so we're going to make sure y'all have all of this.
Right.
You notice how grandma always got money nowadays. But when you come to grandma, when you get your baby and she be like, I'm going to get my grandbaby this. I'm like, well, mama, when I was you told me you had no money.
Look, hey, this just to add some laughter to it, right? What it might be off the beaten path, but I seen on social media where the young man was out with his mom. She came to visit and she wanted to stop at McDonald's, and the young man said, "Well, I've been waiting on this moment all my life. Oh, we got food at the house."
Yeah.
He said he's been waiting on this moment all his life. You know.
But I think we as black men, were absent to a certain extent. I think the today's generation, they're so glorified with the penitentiary and penitentiary chances that it's overclouded to where they'll get up and see a man in the house, get up every morning, go to work, come home tired, eat his food, spend
Go to
time
bed.
with his family, go get in the bed and wake up and do it again.
Right.
They missing that aspect of it. Because a lot of these kids, man, if you ask any of them kids upstairs right now, man, they'll tell you, oh yeah, we rich.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, where we rich at?
Hmm.
Man, I gotta work for this.
Hmm.
And I,
And you
huh?
Yeah, my grandson and his buddies in high school a couple of years ago, they got their heads together to see whose parents who had the most money.
Hmm.
Right.
Okay, and they were basing it on lifestyle. No actual figures. It's just that whatever you wore, and if you were able to do this or do that, then your mama must be making a killing. So it's kind of wild out there. But we have to kind of rein them in, and at the same time, it starts with us. I'm
100%.
going to make this statement: the state of the world today, the state of the black community today, it's my fault.
Mm.
But I will say
No
this.
but, no but.
No,
I
but
ain't
I
get your
have
butt out of it. It's our fault.
I have to reiterate this though. I
Go
have to
ahead.
because man, them colonizers, boy, they put a hell of a twitch in the game.
Them who?
The colonizers.
Oh, okay.
Colonizers, okay.
And
Okay.
they put a glitch in the game, and I think we didn't understand it and realize it until it was too late. Because at one point, they took all the good jobs and they started giving them to the black females, which is not a problem.
Right.
They took the black male and put him to where, man, the only job you could really get is a low paying job. You got to go out
Right.
and get it.
Right.
So then they come with the independent woman thing.
Right.
I don't need a man. I can do it. I can do all this by myself.
Right.
So they steady pushed the black man further and further away from the family. And they gave the woman the idea, well, hey, look, you don't need a man. All you need to do is make your money, go to work, do what you gonna do, and you just like the man. And you hear a lot of women nowadays, they'll call themselves an alpha.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm an alpha. You can never be an alpha. God didn't create you to be an alpha.
Man.
And that's the thing. It's the concept of the culture that has the minds twisted to where they're trying to recreate the structure of what God intended.
All
God,
right.
God intended man to lead.
Brother Tony, what were you going to say?
I had nothing to say.
Oh,
Let me,
okay.
let me say something on that though, right? The colonizers, right, they did what they were supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? They created a world that benefited them, right?
Thank you.
So when I talk about or talk to so-called hoteps, that be like the white man, the white man, the white
You
man.
talk to who?
Hoteps.
Oh, you got to break
What's
it down for us. You don't know what
Yeah,
the
break it down, break
all right.
that down. What's a hotep?
That's these
You
brothers.
see this right here? I don't.
So a hotep brother or sister is one of these brothers that they get into the so-called knowledge of self, but they didn't follow the Nation of Islam way. They reclaiming Africa, the heritage and African traditions and things like that, and saying that's going to free us as a people. You know what I'm saying? So they try to learn Swahili or anything, a bunch of stuff, beat a bunch of drums, smoke a little weed, and wear some dashikis, and then they talk about the white man, the white man, the white man. So as I got older and I would not entertain, but I would like mingle with some of these young brothers and sisters, I started realizing that the white man is their biggest Like, okay, they say that the black man is God, right? They say this kind of stuff. And then the white man is preventing them from doing everything. Then I'm like, well, then that means if the black man God, the white man is a bigger God. You know what I'm saying? Because if he can control everything that you do, and you look at his position in the world and your position as a people in the world, and it's the white man, I mean, we attract what we fear, what we love, and who we are. So you're constantly attracting situations that allow you to surrender and submit to the white man.
Let,
You know what I'm saying?
let me say this to you.
Yeah,
If the climate was good, we gonna get the credit. If it's bad, we get the blame.
exactly.
The colonizers did what they were supposed to do. I agree with you, Shelvin, and more. But did we do our part?
Not at all.
Because see,
Not at all.
one of the things we say is that, so help me God and keep me steadfast.
You know what I think hurt us when we allowed them, and I'm gonna say it like that, when we allowed them to
To run us out of the house. Go ahead.
when we allowed them to destroy Black Wall Street, we never recovered or tried to get that back. I think that set us back another 500 years.
But the thing about that is that what Brother Ware is trying to get us to see is that we allowed it and we're still not taking the necessary steps. And then that's where I go when I was saying about we put them on a pedestal. They're our biggest downfall, and we make them the issue. I'm not concerned with him doing what he does about himself. I'm not concerned with waiting on women for me to decide to man up and be a man. You know what I'm saying? As men, we hold the power and the strength, so we have to ignore the noise and we have to stand up, regardless of what the world throw at us. We have to stand up, and then we each everyone we got each other right here, starting right here in this group, to fall back on. Where you weak at, where I'm weak at, where Brother Walker weak at. All of us can come together because we all have those days where, man, I don't feel like I can do it. But now we have a connection and a connecting link back to God. You know what I'm saying? And to stand up and be what God intended. Because we can't make excuses. Because the excuses, we got 400 years in America. You know what I'm saying? There's no more excuses. The excuses are like alibis. So now at this point, what we have to do, we have to connect back to the source, which is that volume of sacred law, that Bible, and follow those instructions in the Bible.
Amen.
And man up. You know what I'm saying?
Let me say this. When man cooperates with divine principle, man sits on the throne of his authority, and the elemental force is subject to him.
Amen. Preach that.
But that tool got to be the same tool.
What tool?
When you said the divine man.
No, I said when man cooperates with divine principle.
Okay, so
man sits on the throne of his authority.
That divine principle.
Well, is it out of your book?
If we, and I'm saying if we can sit on that divine principle and move forward together by that divine principle, there's nothing that can stop us.
100%.
That's what the book says. However, I gotta change your word, Brother Shelvin. It ain't no if.
Yes.
Let me tell you what the book says. When. See, if.
You wishy-washy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You got to be direct.
When man cooperates with divine principle, man sits on the throne of his authority. Now that's a hellified statement, because that means if my wife ain't acting right, I got to cut her off. You know, now normally they cut us off, right? If we don't wash the dishes, we don't help them in the house, we don't want to buy the new pair of shoes, they cut us off. Well, guess what? You talk to me crazy, I'll be back in a minute. I'm going I'm going upstairs. We'll talk when you calm down. You know, the word says a soft voice will turn away wrath and anger. So I'm not going to let you draw me into this. We are in control, and we're not going to have power until we take control. That means, like I said, sometimes we got to turn our back on them and walk off.
Yeah.
And that's going back to anger, you know, and losing control. The time is getting close. I want to leave you guys with Psalm number 1. Can I go ahead and read that?
Yeah, go ahead.
It said, "Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor sitteth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law do he meditate day and night. He shall be like a tree," talking about us, "planted by the river of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in season. His leaf shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but like the shaft which the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the sinner, of the ungodly, shall perish." He's talking about men.
Yeah.
Talking about us, you know.
And what I got out of that, in kind of paraphrasing summary, identify the godly principles and stand on them.
That's it.
Stand on the principles. From hell or high water, we got to stand on the principles. I always say principles don't lie.
Yep.
Principles don't care whether you're black or white, rich or poor, short or tall, slim or skinny or fat. Principles don't lie. So to me, that just kind of sums it all up. And I think it's 2 Timothy 1:7 says God did not give us the power of the fear, but gave us the what does it say? Power, love, and sound mind.
Yep.
I get to paraphrasing here. So, for God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. Now, how many of you got a sound mind?
I got a sound mind.
Yeah,
You do?
I got a sound mind.
Why in the hell you do the things you do?
Because I wasn't
He opened the door for that one.
Tony, did they walk into that one? Tony, did they walk into that one?
Yes, I did.
You're right.
You're wide open.
I set you up for that one. This is a book that I was reading a couple of sentences out of, The 12 Powers of Man by Charles Fillmore. I've been having this book for a long time. And, you gotta, I think Walker started talking about how you always have to put stuff in your head. Okay. You gotta read and study and all that good stuff. That's the only way we're gonna make it. Is constantly put something in here. But this was a good book talking about the 12 powers of man. Development of faith, strength, stability, steadfastness, wisdom, regenerating love, power, dominion, mastery, understanding. The will is the man, spiritual law and order. Very good book. Very good book. And it tickles me because, say what, Shelby?
You didn't write this book.
No, I didn't write that book. And it tickles me. I ask people, hey, have you been studying? Have you been reading? No, I haven't had time. I said, well, do you use the bathroom every day?
Listen, bro.
But
Brother Ware, I said that when I was doing my electrical apprenticeship, right? the 4 years that I was in the same class with like the same people from year 1 to year 4. And those young guys were like, they never had their home. They said, bro, how you always have your homework done? I said, bro, don't you use the bathroom? They were like, what? What do you mean? I said, man, every time I use the bathroom, I take my books in there with me. So I did all my homework, all my studying in the bathroom, bro.
Well, you know, the catch to that one was last time he told us about a book. He was like, yeah, you know, you can get the book. It's such and such. So I ordered the book. Come to find out, he wrote the book.
Exactly. Listen,
You know my sister.
that's a powerful book, bro.
So I'm like, okay, I'll make sure he ain't gonna set me up no more. So wait, nah.
Listen.
Well, the key to this book is you have to figure out where it's taking you. See, every book takes you on a journey. Okay? I can remember reading, God dog it, it was a Western book. I got involved in them when I was in the military. And it was sagas of it was, God dog it. Huh?
Gone with the Wind?
No, this was a series of books that they would write, and man, the writer could write so. If he was describing cold weather and snow out on the plains, you felt it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a powerful book.
But every book takes you somewhere, and this book takes you somewhere, and it's amazing because I've asked some guys who said they've read it, and I asked, where did you wind up? And where are you supposed to wind up when you read this book? And when you get there, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to be able to do when you get to the destination that this book takes you to?
Back to your word, principles.
Huh?
I said it takes you back to your word, principles.
That's it. And the thing about it is this, we got to start doing more critical thinking. With this power situation, we have to, like Brother Tony was saying, if you can make me mad, you got control.
Yep.
You got half control.
Yep.
If you can make me sad and mad, then you got total control.
Yep.
Let's go back to the colonizers. We gave them control.
Exactly.
It is never what happens to you, is what you do after it happens.
But you know, Muhammad Ali used that as a strategy his whole boxing career. He said that's why he talks so much noise, because he want to make them mad before they got in the ring. So when they get in the ring, if you mad, you can't think.
Yep.
So I can think. But as long as you ain't thinking, man, sky's the limit for me.
But listen to what you said, right? And let's apply that into the world that we're in right now. The colonizer. You always hear us, the community, the white man, they unfair, they do this and that. We mad at them for everything, and they steady progressing.
You know why? Because we steady around here blaming them, but doing everything to each other.
Right.
And don't want to take the credibility and be like, hey, you know what? Oh, we're gonna own that.
If you're going to buy insurance, if you're going to buy a car, if you're going to buy a home, if you're going to buy clothes, you know, a thought hit me because I was getting dressed the other day, day before, and they were talking about farmers and all that kind of good stuff. And the thought occurred to me, where are there black farmers close to Houston? What if we put our monies together and went to the black farmers and bought our produce?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, because they hurting bad right now.
And they don't get the subsidies that other farmers do.
Right.
So, I mean, but that was just on that one subject about the food. But there are other things that black folks do, and we have to empower one another.
Yeah.
You know, that goes back to the old cliche. Well, I'm going to go down the street because they ice is colder.
Yeah.
Dr. Carter G. Woodson speaks on that, though.
Well, when you want to talk about it, I heard on social media where this woman black woman said, you know, sisters, y'all talking about can't no man tell you nothing. Your husband can't tell you where to go, what to do. But you go to work and the white man tells you, I want this report by 2 o'clock. You say, yes, sir. You go outside, or the garbage men say, have your garbage out by 7 a.m. on Tuesdays. You say, okay. You go to court, the judge tells you such and such, yes, Your Honor. You telling everybody yes, except the one that's providing and protecting you.
The game is cold, ain't it?
It is. It is. And what makes it even worse, if we look at our young boys, again, they are following what they see. I'm not saying they're becoming homosexuals. I'm just saying that they are not in a position to make a decision. A man makes a decision, then he makes that decision right. And there's only one way to make a decision right. That's what work. I tell guys all the time, until you do what I tell you to do, what I said is right. Can anybody figure out that statement? Until you do what I tell you to do, the way I tell you to do it, I am right. Is that a bold statement?
Yeah.
That is a bold statement.
Is it a good statement?
No.
Why?
Because I don't got to believe everything you say. You don't.
No, what he's saying is, you know, until you have walked down the road in his shoes and did it the way he said, then you don't know if he's right or wrong.
Right, but
That's
if I study and do my research,
but that's what the statement is saying.
Yeah, but then you have walked down that road, so to speak. If you study and you do the research, you have to walk down that road to get there, to get to that point.
Man,
you can live your life based on experience or wisdom. What's your preference? Experience or wisdom?
They say experience is the best teacher.
You think so?
But you get wisdom from experience.
You absolutely do. And where else do you get wisdom from?
Those that done already walked the path.
Exactly. So why would you want to put your hand on that hot stove?
You don't have to experience that to know that it's not good for you, right?
No.
So here's what that statement means. And people always look at me funny when I say it, because it sounds like I'm saying I know everything. But the bottom line is, until you start doing what I ask you to do, you'll never identify where to tweak it, where to make some adjustments and changes. Okay, I'm giving you a path, but whatever travels in a straight line. Airplanes don't.
Right.
The roads on the road to Dallas from Houston is not a straight line.
Like a straight line is a 90-degree angle. That's it.
Yeah. So the bottom line is, until you start down the path, your instructor is correct.
Success leaves clues, and when you go on a job and you've been trained, right? They give you a foundation of how to do that job, right? They train you 4 or 5 weeks or however long, and then you go out there and then now you learn what to do. You follow what they taught you, but then now you tweak it.
Right, you critique it, make it.
Yeah.
So that's what he's saying.
So I didn't pay attention to what Shelvin said. Shelvin is a welder, okay? And he's already told me if I come out there, he's going to tell me exactly what to do. And I bet not do nothing different. Is that right?
That's my job. My job
is the same thing.
Is to explain to you, hey, I need this done like this.
But until I do what he tells me to do, he's right. But no, I gotta do my research. Oh no, I don't know if I can trust you to tell me the right thing. But I should not be with him. I need to find somebody else to listen to. that I respect, trust, and hold in high regard.
Mhm.
And that's what these Zoom meetings is all about.
Yes,
Getting
sir.
information and giving information.
That was
So
Mr. Miyagi moment there.
Mhm. These Zoom meetings help me when I go deal with my boys. You know what I'm
okay.
saying? Because I get connected. It's like I'm recharged talking to you guys. You know what I'm saying? And learning from you guys, and I'm taking that spirit and that wisdom, and then I'm quoting a lot of the same things that I hear out of your mouth, brother. Where you know what I'm saying about work solving 80 to 90% of your problems and things like that. You know, so like, cause I know this is information that they have never heard.
Well, now let me say this to you, John.
Yeah.
You know, we've been talking for years, so I want to keep you an honorable guy.
Yes,
If
sir.
you don't quote something that I say or anybody else say, you got to give us credit 3 times.
Yes, sir.
After the 3rd time, you can claim it as your own.
I know that's right.
Okay.
I like that. I like that. I
You
like
get.
that.
Is that okay, Shelby? Huh?
That's fine. I'll go with that one.
Yeah.
I like that.
You gotta cite your source 3 times.
Right.
After that, it's a John Moore original.
Mhm.
So, Brother Walker, any closing comment?
I just wanted to end with 1 Peter 5:8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. So, in other words, there's going to be temptation and asking you to take the easy way out, but we have to trust that God's intention for us is the best path to follow. So, all that glitters isn't gold.
Okay.
Definitely agree with that.
Brother Moore, any closing comments?
Listen, man, let's keep doing this, keep recharging each other, keep being there for each other, and let's go and do something great, or somebody else will.
Outstanding. Brother Jones?
It's been a good discussion. I've been kind of quiet, but doggone, man. I learn something every time I tune in.
Okay. Brother Tony?
It's just good being with you guys tonight. Mr. Walker couldn't have closed it no better. And I'm gonna leave it at that. It's very good.
Okay, T Blood, it's your show.
I'm gonna have to get somebody to go on my phone and change this because you be on
Yeah, I
it.
saw that T Blood.
But
him and Moore probably ran together or would have run together.
oh Lord,
Exactly, right?
man, I'm trying to get him to come to Texas. He's still in Florida.
I know, right? I'm gonna get out there to you guys. I gotta check y'all out, man.
Talk about it. I've been waiting to move for the last 5 years.
Mhm.
Listen, and a guy that I just started working with just moved from Houston. I'm like, now he's from Florida, and the crazy part about this, I don't even know this young man, but we would end up talking, and my cousin is his stepmom, and so I had mentioned a young dude named one of my little cousins that had got unalive back in 2020. He was like, "That's your cousin." He went home and asked. And he was like, he asked me about my dad. I'm like, yeah, my dad name is Albert. He said, man, your dad used to take me shopping as a kid. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
That was deep. He just moved back to Florida from Houston.
I don't hear too many people moving from Houston. Most are moving too.
Yeah.
So
I hope you brothers have a great, prosperous week. Sorry I've been missing in action, but you know, life is life. You know.
Yes, sir.
well, it's always good sometimes to put life aside and focus on something different. It kind of helps the perspective. Okay. I think it was David who told Solomon to be strong, be courageous, and be a man.
Yeah.
And so that's what we need to do. Come hell or high water, be a man. Because God gave us masculinity to get us put us on the throne and to serve his purpose.
Mm.
So don't let them beat you down, brothers. Don't let them beat you down. All right? And sooner or later, we need to try and figure out y'all exchange phone numbers or whatever the case may be. This don't have to be the only time y'all talk.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the next time, invite somebody. This was fun. I don't know what we're going to talk about next time. We're going to rely on the Spirit. And in fact, if any of you have a subject you want to discuss, bring it up. Let's get it done.
Sounds good to me, brother.
All right. Y'all have a good week. Appreciate it.
All right.
Love
All
you
right.
guys.
Couple of you I'll see tomorrow.
Yep, love you guys.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.